I get a lot of comments that say, "Yo Miles, that's a really nice Kurt Cobain Jaguar you have," and when this happens I'm faced with the dilemma of thanking them or asking myself if I should tell them it's not actually a Kurt Cobain signature model. For those who don't know, this guitar is actually a Fender Jaguar Classic Player HH. It is my first serious guitar, and today I'd like to show it off, talk about some of its features, talk about my history with it, and why it's a guitar that's stuck with me for well over a decade. As much as I can go on and on about how much I love my Yamaha Pacifica, Fender to me is a brand that never fails to deliver a guitar that is 100% reliable and will never let you down no matter how much you put it through. And they did not pay me to say that, it is something I genuinely believe. So there's a few reasons why I got this specific guitar out of all the Jaguars on the market. For starters, I was a huge Nirvana fan back in the day, and I love the look of Kurt's Jaguar and the style. All the chrome faceplates, the knobs, the sunburst finish, etc. I basically wanted a guitar that was similar to his aesthetically, and this guitar obviously comes very close with a few minor differences. I could have easily just got a Kurt Cobain signature Jaguar, as it was actually on the market at the time I acquired this guitar, but I thought to myself I wasn't trying to be in a Nirvana tribute band, and as much as I love Nirvana, I didn't necessarily want to have his exact guitar, rather opting instead to choose something I would be creative with in my own way. The other reason I got this guitar was its control scheme. This guitar has a unique control scheme that I've never encountered on any other Jaguar or any other guitar for that matter. The usual Jaguar rhythm circuit has been replaced with coil tapping knobs and a kill switch. I'll talk more about this in a bit. To me, this guitar is different enough from the standard affair of a Strat and Tele, which is part of the appeal. I already essentially own an HSS Strat in the form of my Yamaha Pacifica, so I decided that this might be a good complement to that guitar, and in a lot of ways I really feel like it is. This guitar does things that the Pacifica can't do and vice versa, and I feel like I have to approach the Jaguar differently from that guitar, but that's not really a bad thing by any means. Let's get into what's so great about it. To begin, this is probably one of the most comfortable feeling guitars I've ever played, and that's no exaggeration. Part of the reason why I love Fender guitars so much is that they understood, even when these guitars first came onto the market, that comfort was important, and thus provided these contours to the instrument. The belly cut is nice even though I'm thin as a twig, but if my Pacifica taught me anything, the forearm contour is just a really nice thing to have, and it feels really great on this one. In addition, the body and neck both feel like the perfect width to just plop down under your lap and play anything. The neck isn't crazy slim like it is on my Pacifica, but it fits comfortably in my palm, and the string spacing and fretboard width is just sublime. The neck does have this finish on the back that I've considered sanding down at some point, but despite that, I still feel like I'm able to shred considerably. It is a short-scaled neck, as all Jaguars are, but I wouldn't really consider this a bad thing at all. It never feels weird switching from a full-length neck to this one. The jumbo frets are also a nice touch. They make it feel like you don't really have to work too hard, which is kind of something that I appreciate in a guitar. Again, the control scheme was a major selling point of this guitar for me. As said before, these two knobs on top are two roller knobs for coil tapping, one for each pickup, and the switch is a kill switch. The roller knobs are nice because you can easily blend both pickups exactly how you want individually with whatever configuration you like. It really opens the door for an endless array of tonal options with so many micro adjustments to be made, all within a wiring system that isn't needlessly complicated. The kill switch is a nice feature as well. In a way, I would almost prefer it as a button instead of a two-way switch, but it is nice if you ever need to set the guitar down. You can just flick it and walk away. The lower horn features your typical Jaguar switching, complete with a low-cut switch. The low-cut is actually extremely handy, especially in a studio setting, because you can really just cut out some of the bass to make your signal less muddy with the flick of a switch. Finally, the sound on this thing is just great. These are the stock Fender Enforcer pickups, but I've never really had an issue with how they sounded. Maybe I'd replace them one day, but for now there's really no need. Okay, so bad might be a strong word in regards to this guitar, because there's not really a lot about it that's outright bad, but rather it does have certain specific quirks that are unique to this guitar and might be considered hindrances to say the least. One of the main quirks that's specific to this model of Jaguar is the bridge. It's a non-standard tunematic with different string spacing to accommodate the Fender floating tremolo system. If you drop in any old tunematic, you may notice the sympathetic strings over the tremolo won't be completely straight, which can affect how well the instrument stays in tune and sustains. Unfortunately, there aren't really any simple fixes to make it perfect. Every solution comes at a cost. Whether you're filling and re-drilling holes, installing grub screws with thread lock to drop in a Mustang bridge, or shell out for something like a Mastery which will set you back a few $100s. What also doesn't help is the tremolo distance to the bridge. It's for some reason slightly shorter compared to the average Jaguar, which means if you wanted to install a buzz stop to create a tighter string angle, you simply just can't on this one. I'm not really sure why it was placed here, but that's just the quirky nature of this instrument. You're working with a totally different beast with this Jaguar, and if you want to change anything about it, which I think you should at least change the bridge, it gets a bit complicated. Of course, the upside is it'll teach you more about the technical ins and outs of string spacing and bridges and measurements than anything else. And all that said, I did come up with a solution recently that I will discuss in the mod section of the video. The second issue that's probably just a Jaguar issue is it has a lot of controls that are easily within bumpable range. When I first got this guitar, I really had to adapt my playing to work around all these knobs and switches because I found myself accidentally hitting them constantly. You probably have noticed at this point that the volume knob on the guitar is gone, and that's not because I lost it. I removed it days into getting this guitar because I would always bump it and intentionally lower the volume during moments of peak frenetic jamming. I took the knob off and stuck it on my bass, but I left the pot of course because you never know when you might need it. Likewise, the pickup selector switches are an easy target for a good clean downward strum to completely cut your signal. I'd highly considered going the Kurt Cobain route and installing a 3-way toggle switch to alleviate this, but I got used to the placement of the switches that I think it's no longer necessary, and besides I like how they look. The last issue that is somewhat puzzling to me about this guitar and possibly other offsets is I find the guitar doesn't really like chords sometimes. When I strum a chord, the low E will ring out nice and strong, but I feel as though the other strings get buried in the sound. I don't know if this is a symptom of the break angle of the bridge, the strings going through the top of the guitar, the wonky bridge, or if it's just a Fender offset issue in general, but it is an adjustment that you need to make with this instrument while you play it. It's probably my biggest complaint about this guitar, but I believe I've found a solution for this, which I will go into just a second. This guitar has been relatively mod-free, partially due to how great the quality is on this thing. The biggest and most recent mod I've done to the instrument is swap out the stock pointy saddle tunematic bridge for this $30 roller bridge from Guitar Fetish. As I mentioned earlier, the string spacing is slightly different compared to the stock one. All the strings are clustered together a 50th of an inch closer, but as bad as I said it would be to do this, the guitar plays like a dream, and it was the easiest, cheapest fix I could have done that doesn't compromise the playability on this guitar. In fact, I think that one change made it better. The only issue I've noticed with this is I've knocked the low E string out of the saddle a few times, which makes me wonder how well it would fare against heavier string gauges, but it hasn't happened super often, and I think it's partially because I'm still getting accustomed to it. It feels like it sustains more and is a bit more clear, but I could just be imagining that. Most important of all, the different string spacing hasn't affected the playability in the slightest. I don't think I can truly tell the difference. It plays like a dream more than ever before. The issue I had with the strings not ringing out clearly that I mentioned in the last section of the video has been greatly improved to my ears thanks to this upgrade. I don't think it's perfect, but I think something about using the physics of the roller saddles helped the strings resonate a bit clearer. It could very well just be my imagination though. The other minor mod that barely even counts as a mod is I went ahead and shielded the electronics with some copper tape. To be honest, I can't really tell the difference, except when I'm staring directly through this tiny crack that is here due to misaligning the lower plate for the controls and input jack. It's a weird little quirk that's specific to this guitar straight from the factory, and it truly does annoy me every time I notice it, but hey, it's a small thing, and if I really wanted to, I could probably peel off the copper tape in that area to make the gap less reflective. Like my Pacifica, I also added some strap locks, but let's be honest here, it barely even counts as a mod. As far as future mods for this guitar go, the machine heads will probably be the next thing to be changed. I like these vintage Fender ones, but they are starting to get a bit weaker. It's not really an issue since the guitar is over 10 years old and they probably need to be replaced, but I'm not sure if I want to replace them with the same type or swap in some Goto tuners like in my Pacifica. I feel slightly more partial to the Gotos just because I prefer the string insertion method of sliding it into the tiny hole than the vintage style of inserting them on the top and wrapping the string around, but we'll see what happens when we get there. The bridge, of course, is another big one for me, but having played around with this new roller bridge for the past few weeks, I don't really see a reason to swap it out anytime soon. Maybe somewhere down the line when the time comes and I can afford a Mastery, I'll make the switch. In terms of versatility, there's simply no beating this guitar. It's got a lot of options, it plays well, and it simply just feels great in my hands. I know there are people who don't really care for Fender offset guitars, and I completely understand why you might feel that way, especially considering all the little quirks about them. But as I said before, for me it's a guitar that's a companion to my Pacifica. That guitar is simply no nonsense, but this guitar, it's not intended as a no-frills machine. It has a lot of different features. The floating tremolo, the coil tapping, kill switch, the low cut. It's more in the vein of a multi-tool than a specialist. But that's what I like about it. When it comes to different applications, this guitar is applications galore. If you've seen the video I made discussing my various gain pedals, you might understand why I like it so much. The possibilities with this one single guitar are bountiful. Fender, if you're watching this right now, feel free to reach out and send me one of your lovely, new, beautiful guitars. That would be fantastic. I have said on repeated occasions that I probably get that Fender American Ultra Telecaster in Texas T with a white binding at some point, but I know that's quite the big ask. For those who are not Fender, thank you very much for watching. Please leave suggestions and thoughts about this video or things you would like to see in future videos in the comments below. Starting now, you can support me through Patreon as well as checking out some of my original music on Spotify, Apple Music, Bandcamp, and right here on YouTube. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.